Hey folks, Mark Murphy back with TravelTube.com and an interview with Scott Walters of Walters Wandering Travel. And Scott's going to give us some insights into the facts versus fiction when it comes to travel. And of course, I think everyone has experienced a little bit of this. So let me welcome Scott to the stage. Here he comes. There you
Oh,
go.
here I am. Ta-da.
Surprise. So,
Uh,
all right. So give me these facts versus fiction.
Well, I think the first fact is that travel agents cost you more money. That's not a fact. That's a fiction, right? We actually cost the same or less. In 12 years of doing this is my 12th anniversary. There have been only 4 times that I've not been able to match a price.
All right, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Now, talk a little bit about price matching. How does that work if you're a travel agent?
Okay, so say someone comes to me and they have an offer on the floor from some online travel agency or some other source. I will go to the people I know, whether it's a cruise line, a tour company, whatever, and say, okay, what can we do about this? And again, all but 4 times they've been able to match up or even beat the price. It's not a real complex thing, but it's a matter of trusting the process. Now, there are do it yourselfers who insist on doing it themselves, and that's fine. I love them because they know exactly what they want and it makes my life actually easier because I don't have to do all the extra legwork. And since you're paying me anyways through the commission that whatever the source of the travel is, quite honestly, you might as well use my services because you have me in your back pocket in case that other Murphy dude, not named Mark, shows up during the course of your travels. And listen, we know this from current conditions and events that Murphy can show up without any impunity and he doesn't care, right?
You
He
know
just
what?
shows up.
Hold on, Scott. I'm getting a little upset about you denigrating my
No, no,
extended
not
family.
you, not Mark Murphy, but you know that Murphy guy. Whatever can go wrong, will go wrong. That's obviously the black sheep of your family, and I understand that. And it sucks to have the same name as that. Listen, they call me Waldo, and all I think about is all the people that think I wear a funny colored sweater. So it works out that way too.
Well, my favorite saying is the light at the end of the tunnel is the headlamp of an oncoming train. So,
Yeah, I understand that too. Again, the light at the end of the tunnel, you better hope it's green. So anyways, that's a travel myth or a travel falsehood that we cost more. The second one is, and it's again, it's a falsehood, is you need to book airfares on Tuesday. That doesn't work anymore. All right. Apparently, there seems to be something in what I've read and what I personally experienced in the middle of the night. They'll reprice the airfares, but you have to clear your cache and your cookies. If you don't clear your cache and your cookies in your browser, the airlines and the other people, well, they're going to know that exactly there's a problem and they will ding you more. So what you need to do is anytime you're doing an airfare search, you need to clear your history early and often. So I actually had an experience 3 years ago where I was taking my family to Europe, and I had to do airfare back and forth to Rome, and the airfare was about $1,100, which is like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. $5,500 for 5 of us, right? So I put the search in Google Flights, and I cleared out my cache and cookies, and then one night, literally at 2:55 in the morning, my phone dinged. And my phone usually doesn't ding, but I had people traveling to Europe, so I had to have the phone on for our friend Justin Case, who's Murphy's best friend. And what happened was the airfare went down from $1,100 to $800 a person. So I hopped on that sucker faster than you can say Jackie Robinson, and boom, my $5,500 airfare became $4,000, which was a significant savings. It bought me a lot of gelato and pasta in Rome. So again, that was a Thursday morning too. It wasn't even a Tuesday. So the bottom line on airfare, there's two things about airfare. You buy it when you can afford it, and you hope that the airline will give you a travel credit if the price goes down, or you just sort of have Google Flights and Skyscanner at the ready to try and find a better price. So that's the bottom line on that.
so explain the caching. Why does that make a difference?
Well, what
Caching your pages versus clearing them and then doing a search.
if you have a history, the algorithms from all these search engines know that you have a history. So basically what happens is you'll go in and you'll type in that you want to go from, say, New York to Orlando, and you keep that going and you keep that in. And what happens is when you go look again 3 days later, the price will go up inexplicably, but it's not inexplicable. It's actually one of those things because the whole algorithm understands you're looking and you're looking, so you have to clear out your cache and your cookies on the particular browser you're using. So, find yourself a phone that does that. Go incognito, find a way to avoid that kind of trap that the algorithm sets up. Algorithms are very weird, and well, they suck generally, but they'll suck you in. I mean, it's just like when you all of a sudden see something on Facebook in your feed that you talked about with your wife. It's the same thing. They suck you in.
Is it like they're seeing that, okay, I just sold it, let's say it's $1,000. They come back, they inch it up 1,100. Then you come back, it's 1,200, and you're like, this is getting crazy. I got to buy it now, and you end up buying it at 1,200. But if you cleared your cache, you'd look like a new shopper, and
exactly,
they're showing you the $1,000 fare.
Exactly, that's exactly it. And that works for all of it, right? If you want to price out any kind of travel, and again, I don't book Airball by itself because it's so crazy these days. So for all of my clients that book air, I tell them, clear your cache, clear your cookies, and give it a go every few days, but you have to go incognito or clear that cache.
Yeah, I find one of the best tools to look at airfare is Google Flights, where you can see what the trends are. You can see that, based on historical data, this is a fair, like a reasonable fare versus it's at the high end. Also, looking out where you can basically say, I'm not sure where I want to go. And you can use the Discover feature where you can basically say, here's my origin city, show me city pairs all around the country, or you can go around the world and you can say, wow, I can grab a $99 fare to Vegas on, in this date range. This is phenomenal. Do you use that as a tool yourself?
I do. And the other thing is you can vary your dates, because even 1 day difference can be a huge change in the airfare. I saw a difference of $300 just by going 1 day earlier. And you pick up a hotel room for less than the $300 and you're all good. I mean, this is provided you have the ability to take the time off. So yeah, there's lots of ways you can maneuver around, and the Google Flights is one of the good things that Google has in its cache of stuff. And again, they can also track your prices. And they'll give you notifications. Like, I'm planning a trip to Cancun for a familiarization tour, and I'm finding that, the prices every day, there's like a new variation on the price, because the Google Flights history will tell me that it's gone up, gone down, gone sideways. So it's actually a very good tool. And I do actually encourage all of my clients who are booking flights to go right to Google Flights, because it'll give you all the different parameters, including airlines, number of stops, all those things.
Yep. What else? So let's go on to the next myth or fiction that's out there.
All right, the next myth or fiction, this is actually a truth. This is actually a fact, and that is pack half the clothes and twice the money. This is especially true on cruises, okay? Here's the thing, when you travel, unless you have a specific event you have to pack for, no one is really going to give a hoot what clothes you're wearing, right? So you can mix and match. I have a friend who travels a lot, and she does a lot of 10 and 14-day itineraries, and she can pack everything in a regular carry-on because she mixes and matches. She brings only like 2 pairs of shoes. She wears one, she has another. She, again, mixes and matches everything. And it's really crucial to mix and match so you don't have to be bringing 18 different outfits for a 10-day trip. Right, you can get by with less. And oftentimes, like an example, Norwegian Cruise Lines, they'll have a day where you can pack as much stuff into their bag as possible and get a reduced rate on your laundry. So when I was on a 12-day cruise last Christmas time, I was able to, on the 5th day, pack in a whole bunch of my clothes and have them all clean. So it was great. If you're on Princess and you get a suite, you can have all your laundry done for free. So the next to last full day of the cruise, Get that laundry done. I saved over $500 when we did that for my family when we went to Alaska because we got the 2-bedroom suite. It was so amazing because they put the receipt right on there. So again, pack half of the clothes and twice the money. Why? Because you're going to buy stuff, right? Inherently, cruising, other vacations, you're going to buy stuff somewhere. And guess what? You're going to need twice the money you thought you had because it just adds up. There's no question about it. As frugal as you can be, you're still going to spend money.
What's it cost like on Norwegian to get your laundry done?
When you have the special, it's like $39 or less, and you get a whole bag. It's about a 18 by 24 bag. It's not the hugest bag, but you can jam a lot of stuff in there. And again, they'll always, if you're on a 7-day cruise or longer, they'll always have a day where they have reduced laundry. It's great. And again, Princess and other cruise lines, if you go high enough on the food chain as far as cabins go, you can get free laundry. And this is really crucial because when we went to Alaska and we went to the Mediterranean, we needed laundry done because it was a long trip. It was 3 days in Seattle, then we went cruising. So free laundry was great. When we had reduced laundry on Norwegian on our 10-day trip after 3 days in Rome, that was a lifesaver. It truly becomes great. And you don't have to hang whatever you want to hang on those, funny cords in the shower that it never gets really dry.
Oh, that's the truth. That's the truth. So give me another fiction or fact that's out there.
Another fiction or fact that's out there. I think another fiction is that solo travel is unsafe. No, it's not that. It's that the destinations you go to are generally safe. Because I don't book anyone that's going to be going to a level 3 or level 4 on the State Department guidelines, because that's just plain irresponsible on my part, right? So even if you go to a level 2 location, Cancun is quite popular, right? Cancun's a level 2. It's been a level 2 for like 20 years, right? But if you're staying on campus, as it were, of the particular resort you're going to, or you use verified and vetted tours that I have access to, the chances of you having an issue are going to be very slim. Now, I can't guarantee safety because that's stupid. It's irresponsible, and I'll get sued if something happens. But that said, if I go through and work my way through and send you to a safe resort, one that I've gone to, one that I trust from other clients, other travel agent colleagues, I can go and make sure that your trip is still basically seamless. When it comes to Cancun, you just have to know 3 things. The first thing is you don't stop between getting your immigration customs things done and going outside to get your luggage. You just don't stop. And if you can, just don't do any checked baggage. It's warm there. You can just get away with a carry-on even if you're staying a week. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is don't join a cartel. If you don't join a cartel, chances are very good that you'll come back out alive, and you'll come back out well, and you'll come back out with memories. And number 3 is...
All right, hold on. What do you mean join a cartel? What are you talking about?
I'm saying there are people that want to join the cartels. It's like, it's silly, right? To join a cartel, So it's like, and I say that mostly in jest, right? Because, again, no one should be joining a cartel because obviously the risk is inherent and all of that. So that's rule number 2. It's a joke more than an actual thing. And again, the rule number 3 is make sure that, you don't have your drinks unattended. If you're a solo traveler, they have these covers, right? So you can put a cover on your drink and you can tell if it's been messed with, right? So, or take your drink with you if you go to the bathroom or whatever. So this way, there's no shenanigans, be it from a staff member at a resort or some other guest. So those are the 3 rules for solo travelers. I've sent solo travelers to places in Europe. I've sent them to the Caribbean. I've sent them to the United States, Canada, Peru. And there's never been a problem because, again, you take the proper precautions, you put your head on swivel, and you're basically ready to go and ready to have a safe trip and make memories.
Very good. All right. What else? What else is in store?
No, those are the basic truths and myths. I think, like I said, one more, and this is a real important one these days. I don't need travel insurance. Oh my gosh. given what happened with Spirit Airlines and given what's happening with the world and different things going on, travel insurance, I can't enforce an absolute on that because, again, it's irresponsible and people have free will. But basically, for 8 to 10% of your travel cost, to be able to have an insurance policy in place for our friend Murphy, not you, that black sheep Murphy, and for our friend just in case, you need to have that travel insurance. And here's the thing. People think that their insurance on their credit card or their health insurance plan is going to work when they're somewhere else. Not really. When you're in a foreign country, you're at the behest of their systems, whether it's going to Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Italy, whatever. You are literally at their mercy. And oftentimes the hospitals and other medical facilities will need cash up front before they basically do anything. It's really kind of scary when you think about it. It's unlike our system completely. Even though our system might be flawed, it's still much better, and you don't need to pay up front. But their systems, a lot of times you have to pay up front. And when you have travel insurance, you just instantly start to claim, because travel insurance, like any other insurance, auto, life, health, home, whatever, you start the claim process and the ball gets rolling and everything turns out well, usually in the end. The travel insurance thing is really, really important because, again, it gives you peace of mind when stuff happens. An airline goes under, you have travel insurance. Well, look, Spirit's apparently going to go ahead and pay back all those people who have flights booked with them, but it's like, okay, but you have the travel insurance as a backup plan, especially if you need to go ahead and rebook on another airline. And Spirit, the other legacy partners are swooping in and offering some good ideas and deals for that. But when you're in a foreign country and you break your leg or something happens or your mother-in-law has a stroke, you have the travel insurance to help with all of that stuff. Because, again, this can add up to several thousands of dollars, 5 figures, sometimes 6 figures, without much warning. And to have the travel insurance able to help get you moving, it's a true thing. I had a story years ago when I was in Venice. I was leading a group. This is before I became a travel advisor, and one of my travelers was just a little bit crazy and needed to get on the Valparaiso before anybody else. But we warned her that it was slippery, but she didn't listen. So, of course, she took a tumble. She broke 3 ribs and had a concussion. So she went off to the hospital in Venice, right? But she had travel insurance. So she was able to stay 2 days in Venice and then get transported out of there. And her out-of-pocket cost was like $100, which was basically nothing. Fortunately, we were able to have the husband find a hotel to stay for extra days because the tour that I was with was moving along. So that's that. Now, the flip side of that is on that same trip, 3 days before the trip was going to leave, another traveler got a really nasty staph infection and had to go to the hospital. And guess what? They didn't have the travel insurance. So they were out everything but the airfare. And that just was a brutal hit to someone who had actually saved for like 2 years to go on this once-in-a-lifetime trip, and they couldn't go, and they only got their airfare money back. So this is why we get travel insurance. And trust me, those incidents were in 2000, and that's 26 years ago. Travel insurance now is more important than ever, and I'm able to go ahead and send out materials on it. So, I'm not an actual agent, nor will I pretend to be. I didn't play one on TV, but I can certainly advise you as to where you can go look for travel insurance and help guide you to get that. And again, 8 to 10%. That's all it ever costs, and it's no different than any other insurance. It's a bet that in case something happens. And sometimes you have to take that bet. You have to hedge your bets. It's like fuel hedging. You have to hedge against stuff that goes wrong.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of the airlines don't hedge their fuel costs anymore.
Well, that's what happened, right? That's what happened with Spirit. We can talk about that for a second, because Spirit Airlines is a case study in how to figure it out and find out, right? We can use another word for the first step, but to figure it out and find out. As a long term, they never decided to hedge fuel prices, but other legacy carriers do. And for those at home who don't understand what fuel hedging is, you're doing contracts that are 30, 60, 90, maybe even 180 days out. and you buy the fuel at that cost then, and it's a hedge against weird stuff happening like what's going on now with our fuel costs. I wish I could hedge my fuel costs for my gas station, but I can't do that. Well, Spirit Airlines, their business model was to not do that. So therefore, they were in a position to have to buy fuel prices at the spot regular market price. And well, we know what's happened the last 6 to 8 weeks with that. That coupled with the fact that the JetBlue merger fell through because some people thought that a 9% market share was going to tip the antitrust scales, which of course is absolutely ridiculous because we know 9% is not a monopoly in anything. It's 1/12 of the pie, right? So if you have 1/12 of the pie, you are not a monopoly. You're not even close. But there were some of us, well, not some of me or some of you, Mark, but there were some people that decided, well, guess what? This is going to be a monopoly, so we cannot have that. So, yikes, that merger fell through. So ultimately what ended up happening was Spirit tried their best to maintain themselves, but guess what? It didn't happen, sadly. And so therefore, they met their demise over the weekend. So I hope I explained that properly
Well,
for the folks at home.
So I would say most airlines today don't hedge. That's just they've gone away from hedging. That's number one. Number two, Spirit had two bankruptcies in basically 9 months leading up to this. So Spirit's just a horrendously run airline, terrible customer service, and the problem they have. I don't think I don't think it had anything to do with fuel costs. It had to do with debt load, bad management, and the increase in fuel costs is a convenient excuse, but the reality is they needed to merge. They needed to get under a bigger umbrella, like under JetBlue, convert all those planes over, and then in that merger, figure out a negotiated strategy with that debt, because nothing else was going to work unless the government was going to bail them out. And we saw that the government, I think, wisely said no. What's going to happen with those planes are going to get picked up by other airlines. They're going to pick up those routes if they want to. And then what'll end up happening is the people that are in the regional hubs that Spirit served, they're the ones that are going to get slammed because they're not going to have that carrier. And I think that what you'll find is whoever picks up the scraps, meaning those planes, because there's a huge backload of plane orders that stretches over 12 years, they're going to pick up those planes. They're going to look at that Atlantic City route, for instance, to Fort Lauderdale. They're going to go, it's just not it's not a competitive route. It's not going to make us money. Forget about it. And then those people are going to get stuck driving an extra hour and a half to get to Philly Airport if they're in South Jersey and they want to fly out to any place, or they'll go all the way up to Newark, which is probably 2 hours away. And that's going to really stick it to those folks. So I think that's where the issue is going to be when it comes to Spirit. But I think the fuel cost spike, considering it's still below what it was back in 22, is just an excuse for those who just make really bad decisions running businesses.
Yeah, it's sort of collapsed under its own weight. It's sort of like, in a macro issue, it's sort of like what might happen with some of these pension plans for public employees. It may end up collapsing under its own weight. And, again, if you manage badly and you have, two big bankruptcies you're trying to dig out from, and you can't get a merger, which actually made a lot of sense in many ways, I guess we're going to see these Spirit Airlines jets become the Spirit of Halloween Airlines jets, Well,
no, they'll be those jets. Those jets are going to end up at different airlines. Those lessors are going to take those planes back, and then because of the demand for new aircraft, and I would say this about Spirit, a lot of their planes were newer, so they're going to get picked up. They're going to get painted, and they're going to get put to use. A lot of those employees are going to get jobs. There's a massive pilot shortage right now. So just think about it. It's going to be Spirit Airlines without certain regional airports that they flew into. And a lot of those employees are screwed. They're going to have to find something else. But if they're in a major market, they're good, because the airlines that pick up those flights are going to need those gate agents, going to need those baggage handlers, et cetera. The ones that are going to get really screwed are anybody that had any kind of stock in that company, they're screwed. The debt holders are screwed.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of people that'll be in line for their money and they're just not going to get it. And
correct.
the other people that get screwed are all the ancillary folks that service the airplanes at the airports and all that. Because there's ground crews and there's other things. There's caterers. There's other folks. And at some of the smaller airports that Spirit was known to be at, like Atlantic City is a prime example. That's a problem. Fort Lauderdale, not so much because that's part of that corridor that has 3 airports within an hour and a half of each other from south to north, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm. So that won't be such a bad deal, although prices, of course, for the rest of us will go up because there's that one less option for traveling.
Well, you know what? I don't think there exists today a low cost carrier model. I think what it is the ad hoc model. So if you're going to fly in your underwear and you don't want to recline and everything else, you might get a really cheap fare on Spirit. But if you want to bring a purse on, you want to bring a carry-on, you want to check a bag, they would get you 8 ways to Sunday. And a lot of times it would balance out in terms of the overall airfare. So again, if you're going bare bones minimum, all right. But they're not even 2% of the domestic travel market in terms of air travel. So I don't foresee that causing the increase, but I do see Kirby and Delta CEO, and obviously Kirby's United, them talking about, well, yeah, prices are going up because of fuel costs, which is what they've just been talking about for the last 5-6 weeks, raising bad costs, raising ticket prices. But when they're asked if prices come down on fuel, are you going to drop those fees? And they're like, no, we're going to hope they stick. And as an entrepreneur, I get it. If someone's willing to pay $1,000 for a flight, God bless you. But if you think that they're like going to be benevolent when they're using it as an excuse today to then turn around and drop prices later, then you're living in fantasy land. And they're saying it in their own words. They're not going to drop prices if they can get those higher prices to stick.
It's just like anyone else. I mean, look at the cost of like Disney tickets, right?
Oof.
It's unsustainable. I've seen Disney ticket prices over $200 a day. It's like, what the bleep, I mean, my first Disney trip was Disneyland. It was 1992. And I went, my 1-day ticket was $28 and parking was $5. Now, fast forward from 1992 to today, it's over $200 for the ticket. It's like $40 to park. I mean, it's like, and it's like they still can charge with impunity because the people still pay for it. So, until the people decide they're not going to pay for it, and it works not just with Disney tickets, it works with any kind of thing. If they're not going to pay for it, then maybe the price will eventually go down. But as long as there are people that will pay for it, the rest of us suckers are screwed, basically.
Yep. Now you mentioned, no, you didn't mention, but your business, you do focus a lot on family travel, right?
I do family travel. I do cruises. I do all inclusives. I do a lot of Central Florida. I do all of that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So what are you seeing in terms of the elasticity for the families to be able to travel, given the rising costs of travel? Are you finding that they're doing more staycations? Are they traveling closer to home? Are they picking destinations that are just great value? Where do you see that? Where's that going?
I see a lot of things happening where the people are being a lot more, particular with their money. As the saying goes, money goes where money's treated best. And I'm finding a lot of families are doing things where they want to have a vacation home type setup, the Vrbo type thing that I can book through some of my travel partners. Getting a villa for a large family group can be very cost effective, actually, and I have availabilities all over the world for that. And that's one thing that definitely travelers are doing. They're consolidating their cost on that basis, and they're doing things that are drivable even with these rising gasoline costs.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this though. So I don't think a lot of travelers think to talk to a travel agent if they want to book the equivalent of an Airbnb, B&B, or a VRBO. Explain how that works and what you have access to.
All right. I have access to thousands of properties, and the difference between my properties and the ones you might see on Airbnb, well, Airbnb specifically, Airbnb's vetting process is actually none, right? there's a horror story every day, and I see it in my social media from my travel agent colleagues of someone who gets burned by an Airbnb, or an Airbnb owner who gets burned by a renter, right? So there's no real, it's like the Wild West, right? There's no real traffic control on it. But when it gets to the villas and the houses I'm able to book, and there's thousands of them of all sizes, from ones that can sleep two, I can get the fancy tent type settings in the Smoky Mountains. I can get you a villa in the middle of Tuscany that holds 30 people. I can get you a house by Disney World and Universal that holds 20, that's thematic to, one of the parks. So I have all these things, but they're vetted. See, the key issue is vetting, right? It's just like anything else. You can look at your online service. You can look at the Airbnb website. You can look at the VRBO website. You can look at any website you want, booking.com, etc. But those things aren't necessarily vetted. I have never sent anyone to a property that wasn't vetted either by me or by a travel agent colleague or by a previous client, because I can't allow my reputation to get dinged by that, right? So if you
What
come
about
to me, it's the same price too, or maybe less.
what about
So
the organizations? Like, because I know there's groups of there's tour operators, vacation packagers that have a portfolio, let's say, of villas. Is that level one of the vetting process, or is it
that's
more?
part of it. And again, I will look at reviews, but I'll look at them with a grain of salt. But I'll also lean on my other travel agent colleagues. Have you been here? And with the number of travel agent colleagues and all the different social media channels that I can pop myself into, it's rare what someone hasn't been to a certain location. And again, I also lean on my travel partners, not so much the ones for VRBO, but the ones for the other villas and vacation spaces that I'll rent. And those people, if they give me a bum's rush on something, I get to call them out, really fast. So I've never been burned by one of my, truly reputable villa locators that I have access to. And some are actually ones that are exclusive to travel advisors. So the consumer never even sees these properties. And that's important because, again, when it comes to reviews and all, these Airbnbs, you can have 58 five-star reviews, but they're all from friends of the property owner, and so, what's the actual use of that? So basically, you have to take a trusted travel professional like myself to go ahead and offer the very best options for you when it comes to these type of accommodations. But I still will book out all the different, Disney resorts, Universal resorts. I'll work out to tell them what the different options are and what the value is. And that's the other thing. I like to always say that price is what you pay, but value is what you receive, right? And when you book with an online travel agent like Expedia or Travel Advisor or one of the others, there's no value. You're not receiving any value. They're just a booking engine. They're just, taking your money and happily taking it away from you, right? Costco's the same way. They say they have customer service, but when you actually try to deal with their customer service, it's easier to get customer service if you have a bad hot dog meal for $1.50 than it is to
Right.
if you have an issue with some property that you're at that cost you $4,000.
Have you run into situations where consumers say, "Oh, I got a much better deal on Costco," and you have no way of competing against that? Because that's what a
Well,
lot of them brag about, but is that really the truth?
the thing about Costco is they rebate the commission, and they do that in the form of their bribery gift cards, as I call it, right? So the bribery gift card thing is like, okay, we'll sell you a vacation that should cost you $4,500, but we're going to knock it down $600 and give you a $600 card so you can buy toilet paper and baby wipes. Okay, fine, I get that, right? It's their business model, okay? They use travel as a loss leader, okay? Because again, because their order takers only get a $25 commission on every sale they make. If you call in and don't do it online where there's zero, there's not much, for them to have to worry about. They can go ahead and knock off $600. They still pocket a couple hundred in the commission that they didn't give you back as a bribe card, and they offer you no service, right? I've had people who have, booked with Costco and they come crying to me with some issue, and I go, "Well, I'm sorry, but my insurance liability tells me that I cannot help you, right? Unless you cancel, rebook. And if you cancel, guess what's going to happen? You're not getting any of your money back." So it's really one of those things where, quite honestly and quite truly, you have to be very careful and you have to vet it out. Now, look, there are people I know, and I do have friends that sadly book with Costco and haven't had any trouble. But again, trouble will find you eventually. It's bound to happen, right? I had a friend who booked on their own 15 trips, knowing that I was a travel advisor. On trip 16, the stuff hit the fan and they were stuck somewhere, and they asked me for the advice, and I told them, well, I can't actually do anything but this. And I gave them the advice, and guess what? They booked their 17th trip since knowing that I was a travel advisor with me. So that's how it works. I mean, it's really sad when someone has a problem and I can't help them. But, when your hands are tied, quite frankly, your hands are tied.
Right, right. So those are some, I think, some really good insights today, Scott. Anything else to add?
No, the only thing is, obviously, if you want to get in touch to go traveling, you can go ahead and get in touch to start wandering. I will book most everything anywhere in the world. I'm not going to book, Iran. I'm not booking North Korea. I'm not booking places like that. I'll book you where it's, you're going to have the best vacation options possible. Again, I can't guarantee safety, but I can guarantee that you'll have a vacation with memories. And again, instead of the $10 in lattes each week, put it aside for travel, and you'll be a much better person for that. You can find me at Walters Wanderings Travel on the interwebs. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can get in touch with me. My phone number is 845-558-1225. Like Christmas at the end, 845-558-1225. And my email is simply scott@walterswanderingstravel.com. That's Scott, SCOTT, at Walters with an A and an S, Wanderings with an A and an S, Travel with an A button OS.com. I should have made that email address shorter, but I didn't, and I'm stuck with it. And so you're stuck with it too.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today, and best of luck selling. And thank you for all that great advice. All right. That was Scott Walters, Walters Wanderingstravel.com. And happy to have another travel expert here on traveltube.com. Some great insights. So remember, I need you to subscribe to the newsletter. I need you to follow us on your favorite podcast apps. And I need you to follow us on your favorite social media apps, especially if you're a travel advisor. For the love of Pete, as my dad would say when he wasn't cursing, for the love of Pete, support those who support you. That's all I ask. I'm not even asking you travel advisors for a dime. Carry on.